Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of our virtual coffee hours. I'm State Senator Mallory McMorrow. Today's is Team USA edition. It is the start of the Olympics. I am very excited, especially after they were canceled last year and just so many badass women competing in the Olympics this year, including a bunch of moms who are supporting each other. So it's a really exciting time for me. So if you need to reach me for the next 2 weeks, I will be on Japan time. Little bit of a brutal start with Team USA women's soccer team going down to Sweden at 4 something in the morning. But I believe in the team. We're coming back, and we're going to come back strong. We will jump right into it. For anybody who is new to our coffee hours, we do these every single week that the Senate is in session, and we also do them throughout the summer as well. So what you may not know is right now we are in our summer recess, which, contrary to what you may believe, this is not when everybody just goes on vacation. This is when we are in our districts working. So I typically commute to Lansing 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And as you can imagine, that makes it really challenging to go to community events, have meetings in the community, work on legislation. You know, there's a lot of time where we are sitting around in session waiting for bills to go up on the board, sitting in committee meetings. So this period is actually where most of, in my opinion, the best work gets done, because this is when we are taking those in-district meetings, when we get to go to community events. We are working on a number of pieces of legislation now. So doing research, kicking ideas around, working with LSB and some of our colleagues and some of the ideas. So that is where we're at. So I'm coming from my home office. And so nothing to report from session this week because we didn't have session, but plenty to discuss. We're going to fly through it this week, and starting with an update on COVID. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Let's give this a little present. All right. So update on COVID-19. There is recent data and research that shows what many doctors and researchers have been saying for a long time now, that immunization and vaccines deliver a stronger immune response than infection recovery. This has been something where a lot of people have said, you know, I think I had COVID, or I definitely had COVID a few months ago. Shouldn't that make me protected? And am I not immune from this disease now? But with the Delta variant surging in the United States, doctors are now urging everyone, whether or not you had COVID and recovered, including more than 30 million people who've already had COVID-19, to get vaccinated. Getting vaccinated after recovering from infection leads to an even stronger protection compared to the infection alone. Currently authorized vaccines are likely to offer protection for at least 8 months, but likely longer. Research is still out there, and much less is known about how long you are protected or you have a level of immunity from just recovering from COVID-19 alone. So even if you've had COVID, get vaccinated. It's super easy to find a vaccine near you. You can visit vaccines.gov. Oakland County has a program now where you can get a $50 gift card just for getting vaccinated in case you haven't gotten vaccinated already. So go ahead and get out there and get vaccinated. And then just some more data that's coming in now that the vaccines are widely available and so many people have gotten vaccinated. A staggering 99.5% of those who are being hospitalized and still dying from COVID-19 are those who are unvaccinated, which is a huge indicator for how effective the vaccines are. And it actually tracks really, really strongly with the efficacy rates that we heard of the vaccines, particularly the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, at 99% effective rates. And we are seeing that play out in hospitals. So there are still people being hospitalized, still people dying from COVID-19. And what we're seeing right now is this is preventable. We're at a place where, unlike we were last year in the midst of the worst of the pandemic, when we did not have vaccines or preventative measures, that this is a preventable virus now, but it requires people getting vaccinated and getting vaccinated for those who can't. So we know that anybody under 12, anybody who has kids, anybody who is immunocompromised cannot get vaccinated. And as we make our way towards fall and getting schools back open and kids back in schools, it is critically important for people to get vaccinated. And we're starting to see, quote, two Americas where those who are vaccinated are able to be out and about. And one of the things that I was talking to an expert about this week, this doesn't mean that getting vaccinated will completely prevent you from contracting COVID-19. There are still those breakthrough cases that you may hear about. That is to be expected. Just like when you get the flu vaccine, you might actually get the flu. But what the vaccine is going to make sure you have is protection against hospitalizations and deaths. So while you may get it, the impact of getting that virus, contracting the virus, is going to be significantly lower than for those who are unvaccinated. And the rates of you contracting the virus when you're vaccinated are very, very low. We are continuing to see data that shows that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are effective against the Delta variant as well, and some of these new variants that are forming. But the more virus that there is out there, amongst unvaccinated people, when it starts to transfer, it can mutate and mutate again. So by getting as many people vaccinated as possible, we are stopping that virus from changing, from mutating, and from becoming more dangerous than it already is. So once again, go get vaccinated. Those who are finding themselves in the hospital are almost entirely unvaccinated. So this is preventable, and we can do it together. Now, if that wasn't enough, Michigan, in case you haven't noticed, is having a particularly bad mosquito year. So if you are out outside, especially in the early evenings or when it's damp, you might notice a bunch of those guys around. MDHHS announced just this week that mosquitoes in Bay, Oakland, and Saginaw counties have tested positive for Jamestown Canyon virus, or JCV. Most cases of JCV happen in late spring to early fall. Initial symptoms can include fever, headache, and fatigue, but in rare cases, it can cause severe disease in the brain and or the spinal cord. So it's very, very serious. So MDHHS has put out recommendations to all Michiganders to apply insect repellent that contains an active ingredient DEET or other EPA-approved products to any exposed skin or clothing when you're outside. Wear light-colored long-sleeve shirts and long pants when outdoors. I know it's hot and humid out there, but the more skin that's covered, the more protected you are from mosquitoes. Maintain window and door screenings to help keep those mosquitoes outside. Don't let them into your house. And empty water from mosquito breeding sites around the home, such as buckets, unused kiddie pools, old tires, and similar sites where mosquitoes may lay eggs. So any standing water is just a breeding ground for these little suckers, literally and figuratively. So make sure to clean any of those up. All right. So our updates from the Capitol. Like I said, we didn't have session this week, so we are on our in-district work period. We are going out in the community, and we have a new mailer that is in your inboxes, or there is a digital version online, but wanted to walk you through what's in it. We love sending out mailers that are what I like to call servicey, that give you information that you may not know, to give you more access to understand how the legislature works. So in this issue of the mailer, we walk through the state budget process. So this is what we should be doing throughout the summer. The appropriations committees are meeting to discuss the budget, and the budget is due constitutionally on October 1st. However, we passed legislation a couple of years ago to move the budget forward to be due July 1st. Obviously, we are past that deadline and we're not finished with the budget yet, but we've had a ton of people in the past who have had questions about this process. Some of the most frequent questions are, what about their lottery money? I thought that all went to schools. So there's a bunch of resources here, and Liz from my team will drop a link to the digital version as well. So if you have these questions about the budget, we're happy to do kind of a budget 101 as we get into the fall and we're closer to the final budget to talk through how the budget works. But all of this information is public. So we have a number of links on our mailer, and they'll be dropped into the chat so that you can see that link yourself so that you understand the budget process. But right now we are in that appropriations period, and it's just ongoing. We work on the budget all year long, every year. It's a $60 billion budget approximately for 10 million residents of the state of Michigan, and want to give you all the tools you need to understand it and be able to participate in this process. In this mailer, we also talk about gerrymandering. So gerrymandering is the process of packing and cracking certain constituents into districts. You may notice Michigan's legislative and congressional districts are often very strangely shaped. They kind of arc up and around, and look like salamander sometimes. And Michigan's congressional and legislative districts were actually ruled unconstitutional in a lawsuit a couple of years ago. But Michigan in 2018 passed the Independent Redistricting Commission, made up of citizens. So for the first time in Michigan history, the new lines for legislative and congressional districts will be drawn by people like you, by citizens, people who applied to be a part of this commission, who have been taking public meetings throughout the past few months, hearing input from communities all over the state, and they will be tasked with drawing new maps. Now, up here on the screen right now, you can see an example of how gerrymandering works, and I really like this visual. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica, but you can see all the way on the left there, if there's a group of 50 people, let's say there's 60% who identify as the gray party and 60% who identify as the purple party. Fair lines would be proportional with that population, right? So it doesn't mean 50-50 necessarily, but it should be representative of the people who live in a certain area or community. So you can see a fair way to do it would be 3 gray, 2 purple. There's different ways to break up those lines in that area. So you still get 3 gray, 2 purple. But the gerrymandered versions, these are the 2 examples that you see on the far right, is where you get 5 gray and 0 purple if you kind of break them up so that you break up the purple constituents into 5 majority gray districts. Or on the far right, this is what you see oftentimes in our legislative districts, where they kind of snake up and around and all over the place. And it's intended to give one party outsized influence over the other. And both parties have done this around the country. So this is something that has existed in our country for over a century now, this process. But the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, which we have information about here for you to learn about, was something that voters voted on to create in 2018. This was a ballot initiative to take that power away from the legislature. And I can tell you, as somebody who is a legislator, it should not be part of my job to draw my own district. That feels fundamentally unfair and not representative of you, the voter. So you can follow along. All of the meetings of this process are public, but we wanted to give some insight as to how that works and what it is for everybody to know. All right. The last thing in the legislative review before we jump into good news, this is a preview of the good news, but I wanted to provide an update. We know there has been a lot of flooding over the past few weeks, especially in Metro Detroit here. You know, Royal Oak was hit hard in 2014. Luckily for most people, the flooding wasn't as bad this time around, but we saw, you know, record flooding in Dearborn, in Detroit, multiple times over the past few weeks, where, you know, highways are flooded, basements are flooded. Even though I say most people in Royal Oak and our communities weren't affected, I did see a neighbor down the street who clearly lost everything in their basement, who was getting things cleared out just this past week. So we know that this is a serious, serious issue. And we know that these extreme weather instances will continue to happen and will continue to happen more frequently due to climate change. And that we not only have to put forward legislation and plans to address climate change head on, but also to make our infrastructure more resilient. We have to accept the fact that these weather instances are going to happen more frequently, these weather events, and plan appropriately. So while we don't have the bills up yet, I wanted to share with you that Senators Chang, Ollier, Bayer, Irwin, and myself are working on a infrastructure resiliency bill package. We've been working with stakeholders, experts throughout the past few weeks, and we hope to announce what those bills may look like later on this summer and into the fall. But, you know, this is something that I think about often, you know, especially as we see Michigan make national news for these weather events happening. But that's on the radar, and we will share more once we are further along in the process so that you know what's in those bills, how you can follow along, and hopefully we can move something in Lansing that will provide a solution on what I believe we need a 2-prong approach. One is obviously addressing climate change. We need to mitigate the effects of climate change. But just doing that isn't going to solve the issues that our infrastructure was not designed for the frequency of these events that are happening now. So that's what we're thinking about is that second piece of how do we modify, how do we think about reimagining all of the plans we've put in place. We can't build and maintain infrastructure the way that we always did, and hope for the same result, because it's not the reality that we live in right now. All right, with that, getting back into our good news section, my favorite part of our program. Let me click back here. All right, first up in good news this week, a local Troy High School senior and Eagle Scout is hosting a chili cook-off to benefit the Special Olympics of Michigan. The Great Bowls of Fire, awesome name, chili cook-off, is going to take place this Sunday, July 26th from 12 to 3 p.m. The proceeds for the event will help fund a day of hockey where individuals will be able to learn how to ice skate, play hockey, and learn CPR. And I always love when it is young people in our community who push forward events like this. So I really wish I was tasting the chili, but congratulations on the chili cook-off and for hosting this amazing event to benefit the Special Olympics and create this opportunity for Michiganders. All right, up next, this cute little fluffernutter. Rochester PD welcomed its first comfort dog. This is Walter, a 10-week-old golden doodle who was donated to the Rochester Police Department by the Michigan Doodle Rescue Connect, and will serve as an asset for mental health calls, domestic violence cases, or reports of child abuse. Walter has begun his training as a certified therapy dog and will work with his partner, Officer Amy Dremmer, in the school district and around the community. So welcome, Walter, and good luck with your training, and thank you for your service to our community. Last up in good news, this is super fun, especially thinking of the theme that we have this week, Team USA. A local downtown Birmingham business is celebrating the safe return of in-person work in a very creative way. White Glove, which is a financial technology company in our community, held their own Olympics inspired by The Office's Olympics. Any Office fans out there? On July 13th, 3 individuals in their leadership team could be seen on a torch run, donning wigs and headbands down Maple and Old Woodward. In addition to the opening torch run, which you can see here, the company will hold several days of competitive events as a welcome back for staff, including flip cup, swivel chair race, and a paper in basket toss. So I hope all of the staff and employees are warming up their arms and getting ready for the tournament back at work. As the games conclude, the company will be finishing off their Olympic Games with a donation to Detroit Dog Rescue. Love that. What a fun way to celebrate coming back to work. And now I want to do that in our office, which is a great time to bring on a member of our staff that you know and love, Liz.
Welcome. Got my Team USA stuff, missing the 4 stars. But we're going to forget what happened on Wednesday, and we're going to look forward to the game tomorrow.
It was just a warm-up. So outside of women's soccer, what's your favorite Olympic event?
Oh, my goodness. I really love gymnastics. That's always a fun one, especially seeing Simone Biles just crush everyone.
It's not even human. What is she?
It's not even fair what she can do.
I love the steeplechase because it's a ridiculous event. Like, I don't know, I want to be a fly on the wall when they were like, you know what? We're going to have people run over hurdles and then through water and just keep going. It's chaos, and I absolutely love it. So we are now in the Q&A portion. So Liz is here to moderate. If you are new or need a reminder, we live stream this on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So you can type in a question in the comment section on any platform, and we will be able to see it on our end. So if you do that, please state your name in case that is not obvious in your screen name, what city you are representing or typing in from, and then fire away with your question or comment. And Liz, do we have anything this week? Figured it might be a little light because there was no session and the Olympics, and Ted Lasso is back today, and there's so much happening.
Ted Lasso is just serotonin in a show. It just makes me so happy.
If people are excited to watch Lasso, it is the antidote to 2020. It's just so aggressively delightful and heartwarming.
Yeah. Actually, for Christmas, I got Senator McMorrow a little Believe lapel pin. So
sure did. I immediately knew what it was. I was very excited. It's a sign that's in the locker room.
Yeah. Well, I think people might be really celebrating the Olympics and looking forward to the weekend because I don't see any questions right now. So,
Well, I don't blame anybody. So anybody watching this live or after the fact and we replay it, if you do have any questions for our office or something you want us to address in a future coffee hour, you can email us at senate.mcmorrow@senate.michigan.gov. But other than that, we will let you go. Enjoy your weekend. It's going to be a wet one, so stay dry. But it is a perfect weekend to stay inside and cheer on Team USA.